$2 million. Say it out loud, and it sounds like the answer to everything. The end of alarm clocks. The end of pretending to care in meetings. The end of that low hum of stress that follows you around like a shadow you can't shake. But here's what nobody tells you, and it's the thing that keeps me up at night when I look at the people who actually retire with this number. Most of them have absolutely no idea whether it's enough. They guessed. They crossed their fingers. And some of them found out the hard way that $2 million can either set you free for life or run dry while you're still young enough to need it. So today we're going to do something different. We're not going to give you the postcard version of retirement, the one with the white sailboat and the golden sunset, and the couple laughing about something off camera. We're going to look at the real numbers, the taxes, the withdrawals, the monthly budget that actually pays your bills, the traps that quietly destroy portfolios that looked perfectly healthy on paper. By the time we're done, you're going to know exactly what a life built on $2 million feels like, day to day, dollar by dollar. And I'll be honest with you up front. Some of what I'm about to show you is going to feel reassuring. Some of it's going to make you a little nervous. That's the point. I'm Henry. This is Henry Wealth Blueprint, and we're going all the way in. So let's start with the question everyone gets wrong before we even talk about lifestyle. How much money does $2 million actually generate? Because here's the first misconception I have to clear up, and it's a big one. $2 million sitting in a checking account is not $2 million working for you. It's $2 million slowly being eaten alive by inflation while it does absolutely nothing. The retirement we're talking about today assumes that money is invested. Not gambled, not parked in some get-rich-quick scheme your neighbor swears by, but invested intelligently in a diversified portfolio. We're talking index funds, a sensible slice of bonds, maybe a little real estate exposure depending on your appetite. Money that grows, money that produces, money that keeps pace with a rising cost of living. And once it's invested properly, the financial planning world has a rule of thumb that's been tested across nearly a century of market history. It's called the 4% rule. The idea is simple. In your first year of retirement, you withdraw 4% of your portfolio, then adjust that amount for inflation each year after. The research behind it suggests this gives your money a very strong chance of lasting at least 30 years. 4% of $2 million comes out to $80,000 a year. $80,000 landing in your account every single year without you setting a single alarm or answering a single email. Let that sit for a second. Now, before you draft your resignation letter in your head, I need you to slow down, because that $80,000 figure is a headline number, not a take-home number. And the gap between those two things is where most people get blindsided. Because the truth is, where your money lives matters almost as much as how much of it you have. So let's talk about the 3 places your $2 million is probably hiding and why that detail changes everything. The first place is what I call the IOU bucket. These are your tax-deferred accounts, your traditional 401a, and your traditional IRA. For most Americans heading into retirement, this is the biggest pile of money they own, and there's a good reason for that. When you contributed to these accounts during your working years, you did it with pre-tax dollars. The government let you deduct that money from your income, and then it let everything grow for decades without taking a cut along the way. Your contributions, your employer match, every dollar of growth compounding year after year, all of it untouched by taxes. It feels like a gift. But here's the part people conveniently forget. The government never said you wouldn't pay. It just said not yet. Every single dollar you pull out of a traditional account in retirement counts as ordinary income, and it gets taxed like a paycheck. So when you withdraw that $80,000, the tax bill that's been patiently waiting for 30 years finally comes due. The silver lining is that most retirees are in a lower tax bracket than they were during their peak earning years, so you're often paying that bill at a discount. But make no mistake, the bill is real. The bill is real, ignoring it, and ignoring it end up with a budget that doesn't match their bank account. So if the first bucket comes with a tax bill attached, you'd think the smart money would all be somewhere else. And here's where the second bucket completely flips the script. The second bucket is the one I genuinely wish more people had paid attention to 20 years ago. It's your Roth accounts. It's your Roth IRA, your Roth IRA, and Roth 401. The Roth works backwards from the traditional account, and that backwards design is exactly what makes it so powerful. With a Roth, you paid your taxes up front before the money ever went in. No deduction, no deduction on the front end. But because you already settled up with the government, they have no claim on this money ever again. It grows tax-free. And when you pull it out in retirement, it comes out completely, totally, gloriously tax-free. Not taxed at a lower rate, not taxed a little, not taxed at all. If a meaningful chunk of your $2 million is sitting in Roth accounts, you have something most retirees would kill for. Control. You can decide year by year exactly how much taxable income you want to show because your Roth withdrawals don't count against you. That kind of flexibility is worth far more than people realize, and we'll come back to why in just a minute. But there's a third bucket. The one that gets overlooked. It's the one that gets overlooked, even though it might be the most useful tool in your entire toolbox. The third bucket is your taxable brokerage. This is just a regular investment account. No special perks on the way in. No deduction. No shelter. It has a quiet advantage that catches a lot of people off guard. When you hold an investment for more than a year and then sell it, you don't pay ordinary income tax on the profit. You pay long-term capital gains, 0, 15, or 20%, depending on your income. And here's the surprising part. For a lot of retirees, that 0% bracket is actually reachable. If your taxable income in a given year is low enough, you can sell appreciated investments and pay nothing on the gains. Not a typo. So now you can see why the dream scenario isn't having all your money in one place. It's having money spread across all three buckets because that's what gives you options. In a year where your income runs high, you lean on your tax-free Roth. In a year where your income runs low, you harvest gains from your brokerage account at that 0% rate. You become the person pulling the levers instead of the person getting surprised by the tax bill in April. And the difference between someone who plays this game well and someone who ignores it entirely can be $10,000 or $12,000 a year. Every single year. For 30 years. Do that math and tell me it doesn't matter. But knowing where the money lives is only half the story. The question you actually care about, the one that brought you here, what does the life look like? So let's stop staring at the spreadsheet and actually walk into the house. Picture it. You're retired. You're withdrawing your $80,000 a year. After a fairly normal tax situation takes its share, you're realistically bringing somewhere in the neighborhood of $68,000 to $72,000 to actually spend. Let's split the difference and call it $70,000 for clean math. That works out to a little under $6,000 a month. So let's ask the honest question. Is that rich? Is that the private jet Michelin star, new watch every month version of wealth that the internet keeps trying to sell you? Not even close. But is it genuinely, deeply comfortable for most of America? Absolutely, and let me show you why. Across most of the country, here's roughly how that monthly money breaks down. Housing might run you $1,200 to $1,500, and if you've paid off your home, that number is just property taxes, insurance, and the occasional repair, which is an enormous advantage we'll come back to. Food, somewhere around $600 to $800, which covers your groceries and a reasonable habit of eating out. Because you're retired, not under house arrest. Healthcare, and this is the one that makes people sit up straight, can easily run $800 to $1,200 a month, especially if you retire before 65. Transportation, maybe $400 to $600. Travel and leisure, 6 to 800, because this is the part of retirement that's supposed to be fun. The road trips and the visits to the grandkids and the cruise that isn't embarrassingly budget. Utilities and the subscriptions you'll absolutely never cancel, 3 to 400. And a buffer of a few hundred more because the furnace doesn't check your retirement status before it breaks. Add all that up, looking at somewhere between 4,200 and 5,700, which means at nearly $6,000 a month coming in, you've got breathing money, not show-off money, but real, meaningful, sleep soundly at night financial peace. And here's something people never factor in. In retirement, a whole category of your old expenses just vanishes. You're no longer saving for retirement, obviously. You stop paying payroll taxes. No commute, taxes. No work wardrobe, no overpriced lunch you bought because somebody scheduled a meeting straight through your lunch hour for 30 years straight. Those costs quietly disappear. And the relief adds up faster than you'd expect. But there's one factor I've been holding back. One piece of the puzzle that can completely transform this entire picture, and most people treat it like an afterthought. That's a mistake. We need to talk about Social Security. Because for the vast majority of Americans, this is the single variable that rewrites the whole equation. You can start collecting as early as 62. Your benefit gets wait until your full retirement age, which is 67 for most people born after 1960, and you get your full check. And here's the part that almost feels like a cheat code. For every year you delay past full retirement age, your benefit grows by roughly 8%. There is no investment on earth that guarantees you an 8% raise. So watch what happens when you bring this into our $2 million picture. Say you retire at 65. Instead of pulling the full $80,000 right away, you draw $60,000 to $65,000 for a couple of years, knowing reinforcements are on the way. Then at 67, Social Security shows up with something like $24,000 a year, $2,000 a month, arriving like clockwork without you selling a single share. From that moment on, your portfolio only has to cover the gap. Suddenly, you're withdrawing $40,000 to $50,000 a year instead of $80,000. That one shift can stretch the life of your money from 30 years to 40 or even 50. And if you're married, you've got two earners worth of guaranteed income. That's the moment $2 million stops looking merely comfortable and starts looking close to bulletproof. So the lesson is simple, but it's one people ignore constantly. Social Security is not a rounding error you tack on at the end. The decision of when to claim it, coordinated carefully with how you draw down your portfolio, is one of the highest stakes financial choices you will ever make. Set it on autopilot and you could be leaving a small fortune on the table. But even with Social Security in your corner, I'd be doing you a disservice if I let you walk away thinking it's all smooth sailing. Because there are 3 risks lurking in every $2 million retirement, and the first one is the quiet killer almost nobody plans for. The first risk is something called sequence of returns risk. And I know it sounds like jargon, but stay with me. And I know it sounds like genuinely dangerous. But stay with me. Here's the nightmare scenario. Genuinely dangerous. You retire, and right out of the gate, and right out of the gate, the market drops 40%. But you still need your $80,000 to live. You're forced to sell investments while prices are in the gutter, which means you're permanently destroying shares you'll never get back, shares that would have recovered if you'd only been able to leave them alone. 2 retirees can earn the exact same average return over 30 years, but the one who hit a crash in year 1 instead of year 20 can end up in a wildly different place. The defense against this is beautifully simple. The defense against 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash. Keep 1 to 2 years of high yield expenses in cash. When the market panics, you don't have to. When the market panics, you don't let your investments recover. You live off the cash, and you let your investments while everyone else loses their minds. The second risk is the one I warned you about earlier, and it's the wild card of American retirement: healthcare. If you retire before 65, before Medicare arrives, you're on the hook for private health insurance, and the premiums can be genuinely brutal. This is the single most underestimated cost I see, and my advice is to budget for it almost embarrassingly generously. Whatever number you think you need, add to it. Your future self will be grateful. The third risk is the slow one, the one that doesn't announce itself but does enormous damage over time: inflation. $2 million sounds enormous today. But if prices rise at 3% a year, which is roughly historical normal, the buying power of your money gets cut nearly in half over about 24 years. That $80,000 lifestyle today would require something like $160,000 2 decades from now just to buy the exact same groceries. This is precisely why the old advice to dump everything into bonds the day you retire is dangerously outdated for people who might live another 30 or 40 years. You still need growth. You still need a healthy slice of stocks. You just balance it with enough stability to let you sleep at night. So now that you know the income, the lifestyle, and the risks, we arrive at the question that actually matters more than the number itself. Is $2 million enough for you, specifically? Because the honest answer is going to surprise some of you. Here's the truth. $2 million is not a universal answer, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. Where you choose to live can change everything. If you're retiring in San Francisco or Manhattan, $80,000 a year is going to feel tight, sometimes painfully so, because a one-bedroom apartment can devour your entire monthly budget on rent alone. In those cities, you either need significantly more than $2 million or you need the willingness to relocate, but flip the map. Retire in a place like Asheville, or Boise, or Sarasota, or honestly across huge swaths of the middle and the south of this country, and $80,000 a year is a genuinely wonderful income. You can own a comfortable home, eat out whenever you like, travel several times a year, and still feel completely secure. In a lower cost area, $2 million isn't just enough, it's life-changing. And if you walk into retirement with a paid-off house, the entire equation tilts dramatically in your favor, because eliminating a $1,500 to $3,000 monthly housing payment is the kind of advantage that quietly rewrites your whole future. So the honest, no-nonsense answer is this: $2 million is more than enough for a comfortable, secure, meaningful retirement for a very wide range of Americans. But it is not infinite. It is not never think about money again money. You still have to spend thoughtfully. You still have to plan for healthcare. And you still have to resist the urge that takes down so many fresh retirees, the one where someone gets their first taste of freedom and immediately buys a boat and a vacation condo in the same month. I'm not naming names, but you know that person. Don't become that person. Now, I know some of you watching aren't at 2 million yet, and you're thinking, this is great, Henry, but how do I actually get there? So let me leave you with the part that matters most, because this is where the real freedom is built. The path is honestly less complicated than the financial industry wants you to believe. Invest consistently in tax-advantaged accounts, your 401(n), your IRA, your Roth, starting as early as you possibly can. Select low-cost index funds and resist the temptation to outsmart the market, because the data is brutal on this point. Most people who try to beat the market simply pay higher fees and underperform anyway. Keep your savings rate as high as you can without making your present life miserable, because retirement isn't worth reaching if you hate every year on the way there. And then let time do the heaviest lifting. If you invest $2,000 a month starting at age 30, earning roughly 8% a year, the historical neighborhood for the US. Market, you'll cross 2 million somewhere around age 57. Start that same saphet at 25, and you're there by 52. Time is the single greatest advantage you will ever have, and the tragedy is that most people waste it by waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. But here's the thing I want you to walk away with. The truth that took me years to fully understand. $2 million was never really about the boat, or the yacht, or impressing anyone. It was never about being rich in the way the internet imagines rich. What that money actually buys you is something far more valuable. It buys you control. Control over your mornings, your time, your decisions, your life. It's the ability to wake up because you chose to, not because a buzzer told you to. That $80,000 a year isn't just income on a statement. It's freedom wearing a disguise. It's the Sunday evening where you feel calm instead of that creeping dread about Monday. It's the power to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't, without asking anyone's permission. And that, more than any luxury anyone could ever try to sell you, is what real wealth actually feels like. So if this helped you see your own future a little more clearly, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find the channel. And I want to hear from you down in the comments. What's your number? Are you aiming for 2 million or more or less? Tell me where you're at and where you're headed, and let's figure it out together. I'm Henry, and I'll see you in the next one.